Moving on to action now from the Marlboro Crane Hire Little Giants and under 2 litres combined. The under 2 litres will be at the front end of the pack and be pushing hard with Alfa Romeos fighting hard, of course, with the all-conquering Lotus Cortinas and a couple of Volvos thrown into the mix. Behind that will be the Little Giants, and with Little Giants you've got a whole array of motorcars fighting hard with Mini Coopers, Trans-Africa Racing GSM Darts, as well as a whole bunch of Alphas as they're thrown into the mix here for the first race of the Marlboro Crane Hire Pre-66 Little Giants and under 2 litres. Look at that machinery, absolutely beautiful stuff. And Clive Winterstein will be looking to push hard from the back of the field in the 365 Porsche. But now as we get ready to go at the front end, under 2 litres led out by Carl Pienaar, who is side by side with Mark Miller. Mark Miller on pole position as they come round now to take the start. Pienaar will be looking to push hard. Jonathan du Toit is just behind that with Vic Camphor alongside him in the Tom Camphor Volvo, and then 3 Alphas right on their tail, including Mark du Toit in the Trans-Africa Racing Machine. At the back of that, Gary Stacey starts things out for the Little Giants. He's on pole position, but a good start there nonetheless from the under 2 litres. And Francesco Lombardi with a bit of work to do to try and close in on the back end of Mark du Toit. Mark Miller leads things out as they go into turn 2. The design dent repair machine out front ahead of the SP Racing Lotus Cortina. Another Cortina thrown in the mix there, of course. Watch out for the move through. And look at that, a little bit of out of shape driving in the background. Oh, the Mini Marcus is out there. That's not normally the car that we be seeing. And there's a debut for a brand new machine in the Trans-Africa Racing stable there. Good to see the Protea out there, of course, in the hands of John Tendashate. Gary Stacey now with a bit of pressure being applied there by the second of the Lotus Cortinas. Ben van der Westhuizen right on his tail. The 5 car coming through there is Rion Lover, and Rion Lover already under pressure from 111 Carl Brink as they go through there. Little Mini Cooper looking for a chance to get up on the inside of that Julia. Out front though, brilliant stuff. Camphor up a second. So Vic Camphor starting to make his way through the field rapidly and gets ahead of not only Jonathan du Toit, but also ahead of the whole field of under 2 litres there. Looking to get up into the second spot. Ooh, and now we got Ed Buertus putting the pressure onto Lubber. Lubber's just got rid of one Mini and he picks up another one. Buertus and Carl Brink going to be fighting hard there with Lubber right to the closing stages of this one. Roger Houston starting to put the pressure onto the back end. Mark du Toit has gone alongside his brother Jonathan as they come across the line. Mark du Toit trying to outgun his brother into turn 1. Can he do that? The BMW on the outside, the Alpha on the inside. And right in the best spot in the house is Houston looking for a chance to pick up the pieces should something go wrong there for the 2 Trans-Africa Racing boys. Gary Stacey hangs on. And you can see he's just trying to keep it up the charge from Ben van der Westhuizen. Van der Westhuizen all over the back of him. Looks like John Simpson moving up through the ranks as well. He's just behind Rion Lover and the 2 Minis. And Simpson slowly but surely putting the pressure onto the back end of those 2 Minis. Buertus is the leading Mini with Carl Brink just behind him in the British Racing green colours. Looks like Vic Camphor with a bit of pressure now. He's up to second place and it's Pienaar into third. 5, 6 and 7th place going through turn 4. Mark du Toit around the outside of Roger Houston. Francesco Lombardi has closed that gap down rapidly as well, so the 2 Alphas going to go at it. In fact, all 3 Alphas going at it there for 5, 6 and 7th place in under 2 litres. Mark Miller has been dominant and is definitely a man to catch, or even try and catch if they can, here in the first race of the Marlboro Crane Hire Little Giants and under 2 litres. These little under 2 litres are really, really spectacular little cars. And problems there, unfortunately. Looks like one of the Alphas pulling to the sideline. Here comes a move on the inside from Pienaar. Can he make it sick? Yes, he can. Pienaar dives up the inside, gets through on Camphor. Camphor looks like he might have a bit of a problem. Speaking of problems, John Tendashate now applying the pressure onto the Mini Marcus. The man behind the Mini Marcus today is actually Ishmael Beloy. Looks like he might be having... Oh yeah, Camphor's got some problems. Looks like it's probably a gearbox issue there. He's just not finding the gears he needs to race in. And there you go. Just contemplating to himself as he goes through turn number 1, Volkswagen corner. And he's thinking to himself, oh, come on, what's gone wrong here? That's basically a bomb-proof machine in normal scenarios. And, of course, he'll be looking to get that car ready for the Passion for Speed Festival in June. And you can see some big maneuvers now coming out of Simpson. Mark Miller continues to lead things out overall, though. He's had a dominant run at the front end. It's due to the fact that they've been fighting so hard for second place. And look at how the fight is now changing up. Du Toit is through on Pienaar. So Jonathan du Toit is through on Pienaar. Houston is through on Mark du Toit. So a bit of a change up there for 2 and 3, and now for 4 and 5 as well. As they come down under braking, that's the gap that Mark Miller's pulled out. An amazing bit of driving coming out of Mark Miller there in his machine as he comes down into turn number 8, G&A Transport Corner. Carl Pienaar in the SP Racing machine is certainly closing onto the back end of Jonathan du Toit, wants to return the favour. As they head across the line, du Toit now under pressure from Pienaar. Pienaar going everything she can in the SP Racing machine. That little Lotus Cortina has got a great turn of pace. Gary Stacey in a Cortina and Ben van der Westhuizen also looking to make it 3 Cortinas on the podiums in both of the respective categories today. But it looks like Rion Lover might have a little bit of a change-up in the way he's thinking about that. John Simpson as well. We're on the final lap and Pienaar makes a mistake. Pienaar makes a big mistake going into turn 4. It's the final lap, and he makes a big mistake into turn 4, rolling off the circuit and now onto the grass. He'll travel right the way, long way around the kitty to stay out of trouble. But that is going to open up an opportunity here for Mark Miller to have a dominant win here over Jonathan du Toit. And Roger Houston is going to pick up the pieces and move up into third place by the sounds of it. We'll keep an eye on that one as they come to the line. Coming up on some back markers, but I think Miller will probably let those back markers make their merry way across the line. It's Ishmael Beloy in the Mini Marcus. Miller's going to come through. He's going to take the first win for under 2 litres. Jonathan du Toit just in the background picking up. He stayed ahead of Roger Houston, and that'll be second place for the under 2 litre class there. Only just though, because Houston kept him very honest to the line. Great move there from Roger Houston right in the closing stages to try and find a way through on du Toit. Lombardi comes through for fourth place, and Mark du Toit and Carl Pinon make up the top 6. Gary Stacey takes class A in the Little Giants. A good drive from him. Let's catch up now with Jonathan du Toit.
Yeah, I mean, I was qualified third and I had a good start, but Vic got me. And then, I don't know, something went wrong with Vic's car, and then I was just chasing down Carl Pino. His Lotus is pretty fast, but he was a bit wild, so I pushed quite hard and eventually I was able to get him. And then he was coming back at me, and I'm not quite sure what happened to him, and then, yeah, I just put my head down and happy with the second. Next race, I must try and make sure that I'm a little bit closer to Mark Miller, so let's hope I get a better start.
Welcome back to action from the Extreme Festival of Motorsport here at Zwartkops, just outside of Pretoria. And it's more action coming now from the Marlboro Crane Hire, Little Giants and under 2 litres combined. And a fantastic first outing there from Mark Miller, who had a dominant win. But Jonathan du Toit, I think, will probably be just doing a little bit of work down at Trans-Africa Racing and ensuring that BMW's got maybe a little bit of extra turn of pace here for race number 2. You can see how well prepped these cars are, and looking forward to seeing the return there of the invitational driver, Vincenzo Casilia, who had some issues in the first one in the green and white Alpha right at the back of the pack. As they come down now under braking, also keep an eye out, of course, on Chad Tendershate there out in the Noddy Mobile. Didn't see him in race number 1. Hopefully we'll get a little bit of action from him in race 2 now. As they go to the line, lights about to go out, and let's see whether or not we're going to see any changes at the front end of the usual contenders. Right now, it's Jonathan du Toit trying to keep Mark Miller out as they go into turn 1. Stacey side by side with Ben van der Westhuizen, and I think van der Westhuizen got a slightly better start. Andre de Kock just onto the back end of Chad Tendershate, and you can see John Tendershate as well in there in the Protea. But it is Mark Miller who gets the whole shot, only just fending off the attack there coming from all sides. On his outside, he had Mark du Toit. Here comes John Tendershate around the outside of the 48 car. You see Jaco Taylor Jr. with a bit of pressure there coming from that new machine out of Trans-Africa Racing. And there in the background, the Trans-Africa Racing GSM Dart of Andre de Kock, the man from the Citizen Motoring, also having an absolutely awesome day in the saddle. Coming through turn 4, Miller leads from du Toit. Du Toit right on his tail. Du Toit cuts across. In fact, I think Miller might have missed a gear there. Oh, Miller might have missed a gear, and that's going to give Jonathan du Toit a big opportunity here right on lap number 1 to take the lead. If he's good enough on the brakes, which he probably might be. Oh, that is so close. That's brilliant stuff. With BMW just forcing Miller wide and going to go side by side again into turn 6. Miller's going to have the inside line for 7. If he hangs onto that inside line, he might be able to keep the lead. No, he can't. He gets outgunned by the BMW and now under attack from Houston, who's right on his tail. So the 2 Alphas now going at it against the BMW. Then you've got the 2 Julias just behind that. Alpha Julius, absolutely brilliant stuff. Those GTs are coming through in a big way, looking for chances now. It's Lombardi ahead of du Toit, and then you've got Pinard down at the back of the under 2 litre field. Who would have seen that coming? Not after the pace we saw earlier on there from Carl Pinard. Ben van der Westhuizen leads out Little Giants ahead of Gary Stacey. Then you've got Brink ahead of Simpson. Simpson ahead of Burtis. John Simpson had a fantastic second half of race number 1. He's having a great one in the first half of race number 2. In the mix and definitely in with a chance of a podium. 2 Alpha Julia sprint cars going at it side by side, and Roger Houston's got the inside line on Mark Miller. And he's got 2 Lotus Cortinas fighting with 2 Mini Coopers just in the background. Absolutely brilliant stuff here between Little Giants and the under 2 litre class, and such a great array of vehicles. Of course, all these cars are going to be in the big hunt at the front end of these battles when we get to the Passion for Speed Festival in the middle of June. There's going to be a lot more of them thrown into the mix, though, that is for sure, as the Little Giants go flying through turn 4. Brink hangs on. British Racing Green versus the broad bent racing colours there, the sort of burgundy red and white colours. And that, of course, is piloted today by none other than Ed Burtis. But the BMW leads things out, and since he's got to the front, Miller has had no answer. He is keeping Jonathan du Toit pretty honest, but Roger Houston has definitely closed down on the back of the 2 of them and wants by. They come down the hill. Let's see if he can close that gap down under braking. We've just gone through there on Chad Tendershate in the Noddy Mobile. Metropolitan getting outgunned by the 2 under 2 litre cars and make that 4 under 2 litre cars. It's just in the background, I think he's out. Yeah, he has been outgunned by Carl Pinot. Pinot starting to make up ground now. Looks like Francesco Lombardi had a small issue and has allowed Pinot through, and he's opened up a big gap. And I think Mark du Toit might have had some problems and pulled into pit lane. Too many side-by-side into turn 6. They're fending off John Simpson. Simpson looking for a way through there. Boertes goes on the inside. Ooh, you don't want to touch a mini through there. I can tell you it ends up in tears. I've seen that on a few occasions. I actually saw it right from the cockpit as well of my GSM Dart through there. Coming out of the final corner, the two little Lotus Cortinas of Ben van der Westhuizen and Gary Stacey may have chopped and changed there. I think Stacey's hit the front. Speaking of hitting the front, it's now Roger Houston ahead of Miller. Miller has moved down to third place. There's a problem there on Miller's car. It hasn't got the same kind of pace as he had in the first one. And Roger Houston is pulling away, trying to close down on Jonathan du Toit. Du Toit hangs on to the front right now. Can he keep it all together for a couple more corners and maybe take the second victory? He was looking for that in his interview. Let's see whether or not he can make it stick here in race 2. So Carl Pinot might just be out of laps to try and close that gap down on the two Alfa Romeo Giulias. You can see just how hard those two are pushing, and it looks like Mark Miller wants to come back and steal that second place away from Roger Houston. Miller with second place should be able to secure possibly overall victory for the day, but he has to get second place, otherwise he's going to be fighting hard on his own there. Coming down under braking, they come up onto the back end of Brian Rawlings there. And Rawlings having a little bit of a tough time of it at the back end, but of course Brian Rawlings fighting for honours in Class B for the Little Giant Series. Checkered flag is out though, and du Toit has done it. He hangs on for the victory. Roger Houston does the same thing for second place, beating out Mark Miller. Big battle coming to the line now. Oh, absolutely brilliant stuff, as you can see. And they've closed onto back into Ben van der Westhuizen, so van der Westhuizen's Lotus could be in a bit of trouble here. Gary Stacey, I think, is going to be safe, but there's a good possibility of some late braking coming out of both minis. Or we see Brink on the inside of Simpson. No, he decides to stick behind Simpson and maybe try a drill to the line. It's going to be Gary Stacey to take the victory. Little Giants ahead of Ben van der Westhuizen, who hangs on just to keep out Terence Boertes there, who comes across the line, beating out an incredible drive coming out of John Simpson and Carl Brink. There you have confirmation of the top 5 in under 2 litres. Du Toit, Houston, Miller and Pinot beating out Lombardi. Stacey, van der Westhuizen, Boertes, Simpson and Brink, your top 5 in the Little Giants. Let's catch up now with Mark Miller after a good day in the saddle.
It was a close start between myself and Jonathan. We were pretty much next to each other the entire first lap. Then he managed to get ahead, and we were really close at some times. He was defending really well, and then I made a mistake and ran wide at turn 4, which allowed Roger to get past. But all in all, it was a really good race day and a very nice, close and clean racing.
All this action from the Extreme Festival of Motorsport is proudly brought to you by Investchem and Marlboro Crane Hire.